right, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are joining us. I see we have someone from Hawaii, so welcome. I'm sure we have everybody from all over the world. So again, thank you for being here. Before we get started, I just want to wish you all and your loved ones good health and safety during this difficult time. So we really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. My name is Ann Connors. I'm Assistant Director on the Admissions team. I'm joined by a couple colleagues, Rich Landry, Diane Jordan from the MBA admissions team. They will be doing some Q&A on the back end. And I'm also joined by Sharona Bollinger from the LGO office. We do have Q&A open on the back end, but I do ask, in order for us to try and answer as many Q&A questions during this presentation, to please hold any application questions until the end when we get to that subject. The agenda for today is to meet our student panelists, to talk about the MBA program, the LGO program, for them to share their experience so far, and then we'll take a deeper dive into the application process. So once again, welcome, and we're gonna get started. So Sloan's mission is key to the core of our program. You can see the mission here is very important to our programming in that our students, faculty, and staff are extremely curious, passionate, innovative, and they're very energetic about the challenges that they can solve in the world. One recent example of how our students, our faculty, and staff are taking on those challenges is during our COVID-19 pandemic. You can see just a snapshot of what our faculty and staff are doing, from creating this policy alliance to doing the Africa Takes on COVID-19 challenge, which was just put on in 2 weeks. You know, as a staff member, I was also able to take part in a COVID-19 fall hackathon with students. It happened the day before graduation, so it just, you know, shows how passionate our students are all the way up to the end to work together to come up with some new ideas and new thoughts to challenge the way we think and to make sure that we are doing our best to make a better world. So I want to introduce our panelists this morning. We have some great students here with us. As you can see, we have Harry from LGO, Ash, Steve, Anna, and Anna's going to try to join us. She had a work conflict, so hopefully she can jump in a bit. But I'm going to throw this to our panelists. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves, saying what you did before Sloan, what you're currently doing now, and what activities or tracks or certificates you're involved in at Sloan. So Harry, you're first on my screen, so why don't you go?
Sure. Hi, my name's Harry Birnbaum. Before this, I was working at a software company on routing optimization for freight trucks. I'm in the civil department of LGO, so getting a civil engineering master's, although my interests are more closer to operations research. I did basically 1 semester and then I started my internship. So I'm sort of about to I'm basically wrapping that up over the next 2 weeks now and getting ready to go back to campus for my 2nd year. Stuff that I'm involved in, I'm involved with student life, the LGO student life group. I'm involved with I play on the Sloan soccer team. And did I miss any questions? I think that's it.
No, that's great. Thank you. Steve.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well, whatever corner in the world you're coming from. My name's Steve DeSantis. I'm also a rising 2nd year. Before Sloan, I worked in global health, so distributing vaccines in low-income countries using innovative refrigeration technology. Really got me interested in how to use technology for, you know, global social impact, and really what motivated me to come back to Sloan, which is, you know, at the center of some really amazing technology innovation. So coming here, I've been involved with the Adam Smith Society, which is co-president this year, which is meant to be a forum for debate on the merits of free market capitalism. So probably some very interesting conversations to be had there. But then also in that line of wanting to be involved with some of the other areas of MIT, I've gotten involved with a new health tech accelerator lab here on campus that's creating new technologies in partnership with Miami-Dade County. So it's a really kind of new, interesting, innovative approach. And I have a couple cats you might see that jump into the screen. I think that's it for me.
Great, thank you. Anna, you're next.
Awesome. Well, hi everyone. My name is Anna, also a rising second year, which is kind of crazy to say. But before Sloan, I worked at Fannie Mae in Washington, D.C., doing a lot of digital transformation work, really helping the company move from legacy systems to more newer and better technology. So also technology was a big driver for me to come to MIT Sloan, and innovation was really at the core of why I chose Sloan. I'm currently working at Facebook as a project manager. And when I come back to Sloan, I'm excited to get back to some of the clubs that I'm involved. So Swim, Hispanic Business Clubs are two of my identity groups that I really enjoy. And I'm also the incoming co-president of the Public Innovation Club, which I'm really excited because we're rebranding this year and it should be fun. I'm also part of the EM track, so happy to answer questions about that as well.
Great, thank you. And Ash.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's safe and well wherever you are. I'm Ashley, rising second year. Before I came to Sloan, I started my career out at Morgan Stanley on the equity capital markets desk, covering the consumer space, then worked at a YC-backed e-commerce startup, and then right before Sloan did corporate strategy at a bunch of different retailers. So a theme throughout my career has been consumer finance and startups and entrepreneurship, if you will. At Sloan, I am very involved and currently doing a venture capital internship. At Sloan, I'm very involved in the VC entrepreneurship ecosystem. I am co-running the VC PE Club this upcoming year, as well as the Entrepreneurship Club this year. So any questions around that, more than happy to answer.
Great, thank you all so much. So most of you here this morning are interested in either the MBA program or the LGO program. So that is what we're going to focus on for today. For the MBA program, you know, at Sloan, we are not a business school, we're a school of management because we offer so many different programs. As you can see from this slide, we offer, I'm going to start from the early to the later stage. You have the MBA early program, which was started in 2019. This is for anybody who is a senior in undergrad or somebody who is completing a master's degree and came directly from undergrad, so no full-time work experience. You can apply to the program the year that you're graduating, and then if accepted, you have 2 to 5 years to work and then decide to come. It's a really exciting program. We're thrilled to offer that starting last year. So that's an early program. Then we offer some specialized master's program, one in business analytics. This was started a couple years ago when McKinsey did a big study saying we're going to be short so many individuals without this skill set. So this is an exciting program for us. And then we have a Master's of Finance program, which was also started after the financial crash in 2008. There is an 18-month track or a 12-month fast track program. The 18-month does include a summer internship. So there's a couple different ways to apply to that program. Both of those programs are 0 to 2 years work experience. And now we get into the MBA. And there's a couple ways where you can earn your MBA at Sloan. The first one is the more traditional one that many of you are here for. You get it in 2 years. Its average years of work experience is 5 years, but again, that's just average. As you can see, 3 to 7 years. You might have some people with 0, you might have some people with more. Within that program, we do have our joint degree LGO program where you earn a master's in engineering from one of our 6 engineering schools at MIT and an MBA in 24 months. And Sharona and Harry will get into that in a bit. And then for the MBA, you also have the opportunity to do a joint degree with Harvard Kennedy School, where it's international development, public policy, public administration. That's a 3-year program. And also a more recent one, Department of Urban Studies and Planning at MIT. That is also a 3-year program as well. Very exciting. And then we have our executive degree programs. The longest running program at Sloan happens to be our Sloan Fellows MBA program. It is a full year immersive program for executives. 80% of the population in these executive programs are directors. Average years of work experience is between 14 and 16. And then our MBA is part-time, you're still working, it's about 20 months, and you spend 1 to 2 weekends on campus during that program. I'm going to pass it over to Sharona right now to talk a little bit more about LGO before we get to our panel. Sharona.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharona Bollinger from the Leader of Global Operations Admissions team. The LGO program is, as mentioned, a dual degree program between Sloan and MIT School of Engineering, where you earn both an MBA and the Master's of Science just within the 24 months. The program begins in June every year, and you spend the first 3 months with your LGO cohort before your fully full semester business core. Students will apply for one of 7 different engineering departments, and each student completes a guaranteed 6-month internship with one of our 26 industry partner companies, where they do research for their master's thesis. Our partner companies also fund the program so that each student admitted will receive an LGO fellowship. On average, this covers at least half of total tuition for the 2 years. So if you have a STEM background and are interested in bridging business and technology, please consider LGO. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to continue on the LGO track for a moment and put Harry on. And Harry, can you talk a little bit about your decision to apply and come through the LGO program at Sloan and MIT? For our attendees, I am going to stop the PowerPoint for now so you can have a better image of our panelists. But Harry, go for it.
Hi, so for me, I was thinking about doing business school. I actually applied once, 1 year, to just MBA programs, and it didn't work out. And so I took basically a year off from applying, thought about what I did at work that I liked, and tried to ask myself, is it really right for me? And I determined that, yeah, I would like to move up and you know, gain more responsibility, do some management. But I also really liked the technical aspect of things. For me, I liked doing digging into data analysis and a little bit of coding. And I didn't want to get further on my career and lose sight of the sort of technical side of things that I really liked. So I wanted to do a program that allowed me to cultivate both aspects. And so I actually just applied to dual degree programs, and there's a few of them out there, but what was unique about LGO is I just felt that it was really nicely integrated in a way that a lot of the other ones aren't. In the other programs I was looking at, it was more of you sort of just can get 2 degrees at once, and they have opportunities to sort of, you know, double count things, so it's easier to do. But LGO, you really have a cohort who you have a group of like 40 to 45 for me, and that's pretty typical class size, 45 other folks who are in a similar boat as you and who you get to do that summer with, so you get close with. And it's just nice feeling like you're sort of part of a cohort, instead of just being like, just kind of feeling like you're doing your own thing. And yeah, and that was really good. That was sort of why I went for it. You got your sort of Sloan family, and then, you know, you've got your LGO family who's taken also the engineering courses, so you can sort of relate to them on the sort of different challenges that they're dealing with with the engineering courses. And yeah, I think that sums up why I took the job, or took the you know, whatever I did, went to LGO.
Great, thank you. And for the rest of our panelists, maybe you can share your experience on why you decided to come get your MBA at Sloan. Who wants to start?
I can get started. I think I'm also a dual degree student with the Kennedy School of Government. So for me, Sloan felt like a natural fit when thinking about just kind of like the public sector and the intersection of business and public sector. And that was basically because of for the mission. Sloan really takes seriously developing principal leaders that can really solve some of the world's problems. So that really resonated with me. And it just felt like a natural fit when I was thinking about what my public sector experience could look like and what Sloan could offer in that sense.
Great.
I can go next. I think for me, I really wanted to be around, considering a path of entrepreneurship and venture, I really wanted to be at a place where I knew all of this innovation was happening, and not just innovation at Sloan, but one of the most amazing parts about Sloan is that it's integrated into the larger MIT ecosystem. And so you really get a view into everything else that's going on campus. And just that is so so inspiring in the sense that you get to see all of these amazing startups, founders at the earliest stages. And if it's something that you want to do is explore the path of entrepreneurship or even the path of venture, you sort of have a first look into everything that's going on.
Great, thank you. Steve, do you have anything else to add?
Pretty similar to Ash, because I'm in the entrepreneurship world, and really for me it was similar. Like I was really looking at schools that I could have a very close connection with, that engineering, science, the science schools. So I only really looked at schools like that, and MIT was tops. And it's just clear since being here, like I said, like the first few weeks of class, I got a lab tour, and now I'm working with this lab on commercializing new healthcare technologies. Like that was what I came here for, and the fact that it kind of just happened so quickly speaks to that integration that Ash mentioned.
That's wonderful to hear. You don't all have to answer this question, but how would you describe a typical Sloanie, or how would you describe the community at Sloan so far?
It's been a heck of a first year. I'd say when you go through these challenging times, people's true colors come out. And I think people have really kind of pulled together, things going offline, like virtual, getting through the classes together, I think spoke to kind of like the commitment that a lot of students had. Like, okay, being on Zoom calls all day might not be our favorite thing, but like, let's still put ourselves out there because we came here for this experience. And just like over the summer, just seeing how, different student groups are innovating to, come up with different ways for us to engage and connect and enjoy this MBA experience. So I think that speaks to that innovative principal leader. Like, we want to connect, and we're going to find ways to do that no matter what's happening.
Yeah, and I think it's very telling that, once COVID happened, we all sort of banded together and started thinking about hackathons and problem solving, at the Sloan level, but also outside of the Sloan level, and Sloanie's helping other people think about that stuff. So I would say inquisitive and then quirky is a great way to describe Sloan students, and I wouldn't have it any other way. You sit in the E62 cafe area, you're out on the lawn, people come up to you and, they just start talking to you. It's a very friendly and an open environment, and everyone wants to get to know each other.
And I would have to echo that. As a staff member, I sent you all an email, and within 3 minutes, you all responded saying, "I'm ready to help. I want to present." So I think that just speaks to how everyone at the, all levels of the community are really engaged and want to help one another. And so it's a really great experience. When you arrive at Sloan, one traditional part of our whole process is the flexible curriculum and then the core. You all are attending an MBA for many different reasons. You all might want to take a deeper dive in the current career path you are, but you might decide that you want to change fields. 80% historically of our student body changes their career path from the time that they come in to the time that they leave. I think we attribute this to the flexible curriculum. We are pushing you to step out of your comfort zone, learn something new, take a deep dive. So when you arrive at Sloan, you do have your core semester. Core classes you take with a core team of 5 to 7 other MBA LGO students. Harry had his core LGO in the summer and then was fully integrated into the MBA core. And then after your core, you pick and choose whatever classes you want. This can be sometimes overwhelming for many students. And so we do offer some tracks and certificates. We offer tracks, one in finance, one in enterprise management, and one in entrepreneurship and innovation. These are solely for Sloan students. It's a deeper dive in those subject matters. You take some required classes. You're in classes with like-minded individuals. Then we also offer some certificates. These are open to any graduate student across MIT, one in healthcare, one in sustainability, and one in business analytics. And these are great, again, opportunities to work across the Institute. If any of you joined us on Tuesday for our One MIT Experience webinar, you heard a little bit about that as well. You can take 2 certificates. You can take a track and a certificate, but you can't take 2 tracks. I think just due to the courses and the timeline, it just doesn't fit into the schedule. How you apply for a track or certificate, it's first come, first serve. Usually in the July before you matriculate, you indicate your interest. I have never heard of someone not being able to get into a track or certificate. If you are enrolled in one and you decide it's not the right fit for you, you can drop it without any consequences. And you can also take some of the core classes within a track or certificate without being formally enrolled. So there are options. I know some of you are involved in the Entrepreneurship and Innovation and the EM track. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a couple minutes to talk about your experience with those, that would be great. I don't know who wants to go first.
I can start with the enterprise management track if you want. So just for a little bit of background, the enterprise management track sounds very general. You're already doing an MBA, so why would you go for an enterprise management track? But basically the goal of the track is to help students kind of develop a multidisciplinary way of solving problems in business. So, how sometimes you can just focus on finance or you can just focus on ops or just general strategy. What the track is trying to do is help students dive into all of these areas and understand how they all play a role in actually managing an enterprise. And so the classes really that are part of this track vary across all these different areas. I would say like half of the classes at Sloan can count towards the EM track, but one of the best perks of the track is that on your first semester, you're actually required to do an action learning lab. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but basically you get to work with a company on your first semester in a really cool project and have hands-on experience off the bat, which really makes first year kind of busy, but super fun.
Great. Anyone else?
Yeah, and I can speak to the entrepreneurship and innovation track. So it has been a great kind of way to get first introduced to the really expansive MIT ecosystem for entrepreneurship. So that first semester, you get to be in a seminar, and like I mentioned earlier, that's where like lab tours happen. I actually got to meet this lab that I'm working with now. So it's that exposure, but also providing that structure around, okay, here are the classes that you can take. There's still some of that flexibility to decide what in the entrepreneurial ecosystem you want to work in, say more the venture side or more the operator startup side. But I think what's great about it is like you really can't go too long in the program without trying to start a company. Like one of the required classes part of the track, New Enterprises, is one of these action learning labs. And I spent all spring with a team going through how you would actually start, in my case, a biotech company. And we were out doing primary market research and going through all these steps. So it provides the right amount of structure to really let students express their entrepreneurial passions and explore it. It might not be right for you, but what better way to try out that startup world than in an ecosystem like MIT?
That's great to hear, and also one of the other things that I forgot to mention that our students are allowed to do that we talked a lot about on Tuesday is the opportunity to take 3 classes outside of Sloan. So you can take classes at any graduate level program at MIT, you could take a class at Harvard. So there are plenty of options, and I do think most students decide to use this opportunity to work across the campus, learn something else. Have any of you, you know, in maybe your spring semester decided to take a class somewhere else, or in the fall coming up, have you thought about taking a class outside of Sloan? Not yet. No. Yeah, Steve.
I'm trying to take one in the media lab right now. So if people are familiar with the media lab, it's kind of where all the crazy, cool, quirky technology comes out of. So there's something there called revolutionary ventures. So it's in the line with this entrepreneurship and innovation, but this is really more of that like kind of moonshotty technology of like nanotechnologies and deep AI learning stuff. So I'm going to hopefully learn more about it, but it's another one of those like getting you exposed to the type of technology and the thought leaders out there, and being project-based as well.
That's excellent. Another core.
I don't know if I count.
Go ahead.
I've taken a few engineering courses. I don't know if that counts. Yeah, my favorite first semester was, well, so I took first semester, I took a optimization class through the electric engineering and computer science department, and it was probably my favorite class. Really mathy, really interesting, and like the other people taking it were really smart and super interesting to like talk to and work together on problem sets. And I feel like I learned a lot, and I actually used some of the things I learned in my internship this summer/spring. So that was really exciting. I also took machine learning under modern optimization lens, which is like a really cool kind of new class that is sort of through the ORC. So it's technically a course in Sloan, but I don't know if you'd count it, like you could sort of count it as another department. That was also super interesting, because the professor who teaches it is like one of the foremost machine learning guys, I guess in the field basically, and he had a lot of really cool practical real world stories about how he had used some of the things he was teaching, and he had wrote the textbook that we were using. So it was just like a really interesting course, and I felt like we were on the cutting edge of things, even if I didn't understand everything that was going on.
That's great. That's wonderful to hear. So as Emma mentioned, action learning is a key component also to the Sloan curriculum, hands-on experience. You know, this is a fantastic opportunity to engage and work collaboratively with your classmates, potentially with PhD students, with faculty, and get hands-on experience at a real company that has real problems. These are not case studies. We are extremely fortunate to have many companies, corporations coming to us with issues, and they need our students' help. Most students, I would say, take 1 or 2 action learning lab courses during your time at Sloan. They are a little bit more intense because you have the academic work, and then you have the on-site or the remote work with a corporation. Not all action learning labs travel. I think some of the more popular ones happen to be G-Lab, Global Entrepreneurship Lab, which does travel during the month of January, China Lab, India Lab, Analytics Lab. I mean, they're also popular, Sustainability Lab. Anna, can you talk about your experience with EM Lab so far?
Yeah, happy to do that. Yeah, so like I mentioned, during my first semester, I got to work with a company for the whole semester on a really cool project. So just to give you some context, some of my classmates ended up working with Amazon or Apple or BMW and companies like that. I ended up working with a wine startup, which was really, really fun. It was a 2-person company, really, really small. The founder lived in the Cambridge area. So he actually would come to Sloan every week to hear progress on our project, to help us out figure out what to go next. So it was a very collaborative, very hands-on. We had access to half of the company at that point. And so we really got to get to the meat of kind of the problem that he assigned to us. We had all the resources available, and really just got to get a glance into like the mind of a CEO of a thriving startup that was really just looking to create more impact. So yeah, it was, like I said, it was busy because first semester you're juggling kind of core semester, and you're also now juggling, you know, a CEO of a company who's jumping to campus every week to hear what you're doing. But I think I learned a lot about just one, the startup world, which was very new to me coming to Sloan, but now I feel like I know so much just because so many of our classmates are in that world, and there's so many connections around that at Sloan. And also, it was just like a great way to meet people outside of my ocean. So EM Lab was the only place that was the only class. Well, actually, electives in EM Lab were the only class where you take classes with people outside of your cohort. So I got to meet people from other cohorts and work with them. And that kind of expanded my Sloan network off the bat as well.
That's great to hear. Thank you for that. So as I mentioned at the beginning, many of you are considering your MBA to switch careers. Hi, Anna, welcome. Before I jump into careers, Anna, do you just want to introduce yourself, say what you did before Sloan, what you're doing now this summer, and what activities you're involved in at Sloan?
Sure. So I'm Anna. I'm from Brazil. So I am during the summer. I'm doing 2 internships. Actually, I started at Google, and then now I'm at Bain. So I'm having a busy summer. So what I'm involved in at MIT, so I have a lot of community clubs that I'm involved with, the Brazilian club, the Latin club, also a bit of the Black club too. And yeah, and I guess like the sports clubs, I love sports, the water club. So we can't do that like right now with the COVID thing, but still I love doing that.
That's great. Thank you. We're going to take a deep dive into student life and clubs. So hopefully you all can talk about the clubs in a moment. But I just want to talk about careers quickly. I know we are crunching on time and we're moving through this. But as many of you are considering the MBA because you want to change your career role, you want to progress. So we have an extensive career development office. They're located right next to the admissions office at Sloan. During your core semester, you do have Career Core. This is every week. Historically, it's been on Fridays, and you do have a set, I guess, agenda. So every week is a different topic. So one topic, and please, for the panel, I was not here this fall. I was on maternity leave. So if anything has changed, feel free to correct me. But every different one is a different topic. So one thing could be on salary negotiation. But even prior to Career Core, you have access to the Career Development Office before you matriculate. As soon as you submit your deposit, the Career Development Office has built out this extensive platform online where you can take part in webinars. You can talk with anyone from the office, and they have tips and resources. So it's a really extensive service. About 90% last year of our graduates had job offers within 3 months of graduation. Now this stat might surprise you all, but 1/3 of our graduates accepted full-time employment through on-campus recruiting. So that means that the other percent, you really networked, used their classmates, you worked across on different programs, maybe connected with a Sloan Fellow. You will get to know people in different programs because you're in a flexible curriculum. So you might have someone from the Masters of Finance program in your class or someone from Sloan Fellows. So interacting and networking with them is a great way to kind of find internships, find jobs, and also through the alums. The MIT email address is a powerful email address, and alums are always willing and ready to help current students and even prospects. If you've joined us on any of our alumni panels, I hope you can see how engaged our alums are with Sloan. Maybe could some of you talk about how you were able to secure your internships for the summer, or maybe talk about Career Core. That would be great.
Well, I can jump into that. So I recruited for 2 industries, as you can tell. So for me, it was a bit hard. So for the tech part, so as Anna said, I mean, it was not only the campus recruiting. I had to do a lot of network, and I also had to look at LinkedIn opportunities or other websites, and etc. So for that part was really important, the club. all the clubs that I could join, the professional clubs. They helped me with like where I should look at, how should I prepare, and etc. And for the consulting part that I recruited for, so it was we have a lot of support for consulting on campus. So all the consulting companies come on campus, so we can like start networking with people and know what they do and how we could leverage our knowledge to get in the company. So that was like, there are a lot of events for most of the companies. So we have info sessions, we have like, I don't know, community networking events and etc. So this can be like a bit exhausting in the core semester, but also this helps to, for you to understand what you want to do after. And for the support that we had from CDO, from the career development office. So we have mock interviews that helped me a lot. Also with the resume, they helped me review. Well, for me, I mean, English is not my native language, so I need a lot of help on that. Yeah, so I guess, and also like connecting me with alumni, especially for the tech companies. So this helped me a lot.
That's great. Does anyone else want to share their kind of internship experience in terms of recruiting?
Sure, I can speak a little bit to how it's done at LGO because it's a bit unique. Part of being in the LGO program means you have to do a 6 month internship with one of the 20-some partner companies, and for me that was actually kind of nice. If you've Because there seem like plenty of interesting companies on that list. You can see it on the website. And the LGO office pretty much organizes it for you. There's over the summer, you have company days where the company comes, does a presentation, and then you have like a sort of like happy hour type thing, drinks and snacks, and can network with the companies. And then there's basically, they post a list of all their internship ideas, which are based on a bunch of surveys they'll send out to the class to see what they're interested in doing. And then you basically have a week where you can sign up for as many internships as you want. I think you get all of them. I don't think anyone didn't get one. Like, it's just a matter of time. And then after you've interviewed at everywhere you want, there's like a matching process, kind of like residency or whatever, where company ranks you rank the companies, and then you just get matched with the one you want, which is nice because you can kind of, it really takes a lot of work off your plate in terms of networking, and you can focus on getting to know folks at Sloan and working on your core classes, and yeah, so I was happy about that process.
That's great to hear. I should mention that, due to COVID, we are doing our absolute best to make sure that the experience for domestic and international students is just a phenomenal experience. In terms of career and logistics on OPT and whatnot, all students are required to have an MBA internship now between their first and second year. It is very uncommon for someone not to have one, but it is now required, and many of our peer schools already have this requirement in place, but it's something new this year that is going to be a requirement, and it's going to be there for the foreseeable future. So for those who are applying, just be aware of that factor. Since we are close on time, I kind of want to move to the next topic. We talked a lot about classes and the academic side of Sloan, but we do have a lot of fun at Sloan too. There's a lot of social engagements, whether it's through student clubs or just outside. We have C functions, cultural functions, most Thursdays put on by student clubs. Can maybe a few of you talk a little bit about your favorite experience outside the classroom at Sloan, or maybe the clubs you're involved in, just to give an overview of the social aspect of Sloan as well?
I can start. For the entrepreneurship and venture capital and private equity club, We have a lot of mixers, you know, again, not only with Sloan, but with other schools at MIT, and then also at all the surrounding schools. So we do a lot of partnership events with Harvard Business School. We go out to bars, we get snacks. And so it's, you know, highly integrated. It's really fun. The great thing about it is, like, we don't just say, you know, in the Cambridge area, Boston is very fun, Seaport. And so it's a very walkable, exciting city, and all the students get together and have fun.
That's great. Anybody else?
I think I'll answer the question about my favorite social experience at Sloan. It's actually been the yarn. So for those of you who don't know, the yarn is kind of an event that's put together like mostly every month, where Sloanies just go and tell their stories, whatever their story is, or in whatever format they want. It could be sad, it could be happy, it could just be funny. But it's just a great way to learn about what makes Sloanies and just like the amazing path that people have taken, and kind of the different backgrounds people come from. And the first time I attended, in the first couple of months of coming to Sloan, it just really made me feel at home when I heard so many Sloanies be so vulnerable and willing to share their stories, that I knew I had come to the right place after going to the yarn.
Great, excellent. So I want to just take a break from the MBA program and LGO program, and I know many of you are very eager to hear about the application. While I talk about the application, I would love our panelists to think about two things. What you're most excited about in returning to campus, and then also any tips or advice you may have, whether it's when applying or from your experience with the application and interview process, what tips you may have. I'll ask each one of you because I think it's important for our audience to hear your thoughts on applying to business schools. So I am going to start the PowerPoint again, so you will be able to see the application components. Okay, breaking news. For those who don't know, the application will be live on Monday. Very exciting. Even better news is that there haven't been that many changes to the application from this year to last year. Here you can see the application checklist. We are still finalizing, for those who are interested in Sloan Fellows, the application deadline, so stay tuned. But I'm going to run through the components right now, and feel free to ask questions about these components on the Q&A now, and my colleagues and I will try to answer as many questions as we can. You know, there's 700 people on this webinar right now, and so we can't get to all questions, but we are always available by email or phone call if there was a question that we were unable to get to. So first off is your resume. One-page resume. There's specific instructions on how your resume should be formatted. I don't have many pet peeves, but my biggest pet peeve on reading someone's application is when they don't follow the instructions specifically around the resume and removing your name and contact information from the top of your resume. So please, anyone looking to apply, please do that. It's very important to us, and it will solve my pet peeve of the application that are submitted. The next part is the cover letter. You know, I know many companies these days are foregoing the cover letter, but this is a traditional cover letter where you do need to address it like you are addressing a cover letter for a job you want. You are applying for a seat in this class, potentially 1 out of 15 people potentially for that one spot. So this is an opportunity for you to showcase your current or past success. That is how we view your success for the future. We take your current and past success, and it's an indicator of your potential success. So in the cover letter, don't focus on future career goals. As I said, 80% change their mind. So what you say in the cover letter might not be true by the time you graduate. Hopefully it is. Your goals will be accomplished during your time at Sloan, but really focus on an example of past or current success within the last 3 years. When you do this example, think about who you worked with, what challenges you had. It's a pretty short cover letter, so there's not a lot of room. So be very specific. You don't need to also focus the cover letter on why Sloan. Yes, you should mention it somewhere, but don't take up 300 out of 350 words on it. Then there's an organizational chart. There are examples of the org chart on the application, and no org chart will look the same. We just want a better format of how your company works. Everybody has a different company, whether you're in a family business or a starting venture and it's flat structure versus maybe you're at Bain and it's a very large company and you have a client work as well. So just look at the example and do your best. Highlight who you work with on an everyday basis. And again, if you are in that consulting view, you might have one that is your everyday team and then the client team as well. If you're a military applicant, sometimes we see where you were involved in while you're in service. And if you're now out of service, you might include two, but generally one cover letter or one org chart is great. Last year, we took away a recommendation letter. We didn't feel that the second letter of recommendation was that helpful to us in determining, your strengths and weaknesses. So one letter of recommendation. In order to have a complete application, you need your recommender to have the recommendation in when it starts. So please contact them now. Things get busy in the fall, so just tell them that you're applying now. Once the application opens on Monday, you can submit their information in there and they can start the process. Because we reduced the recommendation letter, we ask for 2 additional references. So if there was an outstanding question, we can call these references and just ask some more additional information. So who should you pick for those? Pick people who you might have asked as your second recommender. We may or may not contact them, so don't freak out if we do contact them or if we don't. And, we'll send them an email and give them plenty of time. We won't just cold call them. Academic transcripts. The transcripts must be in English. Any institute that you graduated from, if you studied abroad, usually those grades, pass-fail, or grades are on your home institute transcript, so don't worry about that. If you already have a master's degree, please include that as well. We look at every test score. Do not try to convert your GPA into the 4.0 scale. If it's not on 4.0, we will do that for you. The GMAT and GRE scores, you will need a test score. Now, we understand the challenges with test centers being closed and the COVID. We are developing a plan for those who are unable to have access to the test. But, for round 3 and round 2 this past year, for those who applied who didn't have the test, they still had to take the test eventually. So you will have to eventually take the test. But stay tuned. We're still figuring that stuff out as we have more information from GMAT and from the testing centers. You can take whatever test you want, either GMAT or GRE. It doesn't matter to us. Take whatever test is more comfortable for you, but the test scores for right now have to be in by the time that you submit your application. So stay tuned. We'll have more communication when we have more information. The 60-second video statement. This is fun. This is the first thing I look at when I open an application because I want to get to know you. I want to put a name, a face to the application and personality. Tell me something new. Tell me, when you talk to somebody for the first time, what do you say? Do you have a passion? Do you have a hobby? Please don't feel that you have to be super creative. We want this to be authentic. We want to get to know you. I'm going to ask our panelists to maybe tell us what they did for their 60-second video. But again, it's just a way for us to get to know you. So I think that's it in terms of the application. It's pretty lean. As you can see, the deadlines are up. The question that we're getting a lot of is, did the deferrals or did COVID will it impact next year's applications? We still want to admit the same number of people that we normally do, 400. We have just over 400 this year matriculating. They already matriculated. We don't know. To be completely honest and transparent, we don't know how many people are going to apply. We don't know the status, but it's going to be just as competitive, and we're going to evaluate candidates like we always do. So nothing will change on that end. The only thing that's going to change is that interviews will be conducted via Zoom or via Skype. interviews are by invitation only. So we read every single application that comes in. Admissions are the only readers. Interviewers are done by maybe somebody from the program office, but generally admissions. They're behavioral interviews. They are not meant to be scary. We want to ask some follow-up questions, learn something new. And during the interview process, we want to know why you want to get your MBA and what your career goals are and why Sloan. So be ready, hopefully, if you're invited to interview, to answer those questions. And Ashley, I interviewed you, so hopefully it wasn't too scary. I just wanted to learn more about you all. And so that, in short, is the application. Now, for those who are interested in LGO, you do have two ways to apply. The first way to apply is through Sloan. And if you apply through Sloan and don't get into the LGO program, you are then rolled into the next round and considered solely for the MBA. Now, if you want to apply through one of the engineering departments, you can, but that means if you don't get into LGO, you'll only be considered for a master's in that engineering school. There are some additional application components. So if Sharona is still on, do you want to just briefly mention any additional components to the LGO application?
Yeah, so we ask for 2 recommendation letters when you apply through Sloan, one professional and one technical, but we do not ask for the additional references. So that's a little bit of a difference. If you apply through the engine, you will be asked for 3 recommendation letters. And otherwise, the only significant difference is you will be asked to write a statement of purpose on the LGO application, and that is to kind of describe your fit with LGO and the engineering department that you're applying to.
Great, thank you. So we have some questions coming in, and I think my colleagues are answering them. And I am just going through some of them right now, and we'll try to okay. So the questions are applying in the rounds. I see. We want to admit 90% of the class in the first 2 rounds. Are we prefacing round 1 over round 2? Not necessarily, but the benefit for you all is that you know sooner about your decision, and we're building a class from scratch. We have round 3 for a reason. We know that people's job changes. We know that things are uncertain right now. And so if you feel that round 3 is the best for you, apply in round 3. We also don't want you to rush your application. This is your one opportunity to put your best foot forward for this year. So if you feel that your application is not up to speed where you want it to be by October 1st or January 19th, wait and really put your best foot forward. I'm going to pass it to maybe the panelists and talk a little bit about, the application components. What was maybe tricky for you, or what advice do you have about the application components? And maybe talk about your 60-second video if you don't mind. Or Harry, talk about the LGO application as well.
My 60-second video, I think is what, I don't know because admissions never told me, but it is that opportunity to make yourself stand out, like Anna was mentioning. And, you can sit here on Zoom and film yourself in front of a white background, but think how you can creatively show your personality that isn't reflected in the resume or the cover letter. So for example, what I did is I actually was on one of these sessions before, and they were giving this advice, and I thought, well, okay. In vaccine refrigeration, I actually popped out of the fridge into the shot and talked about how I was leaving this world of cold chain and vaccine refrigeration and wanting to come to Sloan. So think about creative ways to be memorable, is what I would say.
Great. Anybody else?
I would definitely focus on what makes you unique. I think that the most important piece of advice that I received and hopefully followed and luckily got in, that I think you should sort of keep top of mind is your impact based on what makes you unique. Not the right move for you right now and why specifically Sloan, but also like all of those amazing experiences, how are you going to apply those? And
it was just me talking in front of a white background. So although that's pretty reflective of my personality, so maybe it was the right thing to do. My advice would be, I think, so like I said, I applied twice, and I think the major difference would be leading with, I sort of led with what I thought about what I wanted my experience to be like, instead of thinking about what it would take to get in. Like the first time, read a bunch of books, talked to some consultants about like getting into MBA programs, et cetera, and like tried to write what they wanted to hear. And then the second time I sort of led with what I wanted my experience to be like, and I sort of wrote down my essays based on that, and then kind of then followed with sort of the edits based on input from the books and the websites and stuff. So I would just say, think about what courses you want to take, what you would actually do when you get here. And I agree with everything else that's been said so far about impact and things like that.
Great, that's excellent. And I apologize if my internet is a little shaky here this morning. We are out of time, but I just want to touch upon a couple things. The first thing is reapplicants. There is a section on our website about reapplications. If you applied last year, you are considered a reapplicant. We will have access to your old application, so make sure that it's updated, it's different. We will ask on the application, what has changed since you've last applied. We're not expecting you to be a completely different person, especially if you applied in round 3. But we should see some growth, and maybe, you can expand a little bit more on some of the examples or new examples. We will be doing more of these info sessions, and application tips webinar will be in September as well. The application is live again on Monday. Really read through the instructions. Reach out to us if you need anything, have additional questions. And I said the test information will be updated as soon as we have more information. We are, doing the best we can with COVID and making sure that we are as flexible as possible during this time. So I appreciate you all, working with us during this time. We have a bunch of upcoming events. We have our diversity and inclusion events next week. We have some more of these. I have been doing topical webinars for those, student experience webinars. We have one on social impact and sustainability coming up in 2 weeks, so hopefully you can join us. We did one on student life, one MIT, healthcare, and entrepreneurship. Those are available. Those recordings are available, and we record everything as well. They're available on our YouTube channel. But I know we're out of time, but maybe just quickly, any other last minute things from our student panel that you want to share?
I'll just say something that I didn't know and I wish I knew is feel free to reach out to current Sloanies too when thinking and working through your application. People are super willing to help, and you should definitely take advantage of that.
That is a great point. Thank you for reminding me. Prior to COVID, one of my responsibilities was the class visit program, which we unfortunately won't be able to have visitors on campus this fall. We are coming up with a way to offer the classroom experience to you virtually, but most importantly, with that as part of the programming, we will be doing student coffee chats and admissions presentations like this, where you can ask questions on a more individual level. There'll be about 30 prospects per event. So that will start mid-September. Classes start September 1st. So probably around the 17th, we'll kick that off. So feel free, once that's all live, you'll get notified and you can connect with us and students, and hopefully hear from faculty spotlights, and sit in on some classes, hopefully. But anything else before we log off from our panel? Great. Well, again, thank you all for joining us. Terrific turnout. Thank you to our panelists. Again, continued health and safety to all of you. We wish you all very well, and thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Take care.